Just calming the crowd.
Good.
They're restless.
Good morning, everyone. That felt very much like my classroom days there, so that's all right. I want to thank everybody for coming here to the Holland Land Office Museum for our Java with Joe series. We do this every fourth Thursday of the month, excluding November and December, because let's face it, nobody wants to be here on Thanksgiving or Christmas, so, because I don't. So, but we're very happy to have Richard Beatty here again to present on a very local topic, one that he's told me he spent way too much time on. So you will get the full story of Batavia's community pool and community garden.
Well, I don't know about that. I'm a volunteer here at the museum, and Ryan is always looking for presenters for various programs. And I did a job with Joe a couple years back on something to do with the Martin House in Buffalo. I'm a volunteer docent at Franklin and Wright House there. So, yeah, I could do one, and I first was going to do something on Red Jacket. I said, no, I did that for the library. Being a volunteer at the community garden, which is part of the story, got interested in, well, what was here? What has been changed over the many, many years? And having grown up in Florida, believe it or not, experienced the wave of northerners coming south and all the changes to my local community. We had a local pool as well that I was a lifeguard at in 7th or 8th grade. I think they allowed us to be junior guards. And of course, that was bulldozed as well. Progress, ever progress. All right, so a couple of acknowledgments, so I won't forget them. Bear with me, I just had cataract surgery, so I'm fighting, the glasses, no glasses thing. So really want to thank Michael Eula and Katie Bonk out of the Genesee County Historical Society, or the county historian. Ruth McAvoy, oh my goodness. She did an immense amount of research, pointed me in the direction of microfiche, first at the county and then at the library. That may be why I'm not seeing so good, I'm not sure. Anne-Marie Starowitz, of course, written a number of books. Chuck Bernard over at on the Facebook page. You grew up in Old Batavia. Found some nice information on there. Great stuff at the library. Those folks over there are terrific. Everybody familiar with our library?
Oh, yes.
Good.
Yes.
Great bunch of people and very, very helpful. I spent many, many hours going blind and reading microfiche. Has anybody worked with microfiche? Yeah, you know my thing. All right, so with that, I'm going to start off with the first slide. This is, of course, a map, the Google Earth map of the community pool and what would become the community garden. Of course, as you go out State Street, you sort of leave Old Batavia, heading for the thruway to pass over the thruway. As the city grew and expanded, it headed in that direction, and of course out toward Narramore, more modern homes. Well, you look at the center of that, of course you see Dwyer Stadium, the home of the Muck Dogs, before that the Clippers, before that the Trojans, quite a long history of the team. We had a nice display here at the Holland Land Office Museum last year on baseball in Batavia. I hope you got a chance to take that in. Then, of course, MacArthur Park. MacArthur Park was developed in the 1930s, I believe. There's a stone building there. Right next to the stone building is the tennis courts, and beyond that, you see all the ball fields. That's for our youth baseball program. And right across from the tennis courts, you'll see the tennis courts in your vision there, just north of Dwyer Stadium. That is where they decided to build a community pool. The process took quite a long while, and I'm I'm going to go delve into that. Hopefully the technical. Bill. I told you we were going to be featured. Bill Kaufman sitting in the back, of course, grew up in Batavia, graduated from Batavia High School. That is Bill on the receiving end of the beach ball, and for his brother Mike, right?
My brother Mike says it looks like I didn't misjudge the beach ball. It's going to hit me in the head.
You're
Time of your story.
You're never real good at catching them. That photograph was taken in 1967. Looks like you're in the wading pool. The wading pool was built subsequent to the original pool, which was built in 1962. All right, so to get an idea of the changes up there, I don't know how many are familiar with Community Garden. I know we have at least one, two, a few folks that are members of the Community Garden. Community Garden is in the left-hand side of that image. One of our gardeners last year was industrious enough to get himself he had his own drone, so he created a nice video complete with music, so I snatched a little image of that, and that is looking obviously towards Dwyer Stadium, and you can see to the right-hand side of the picture of the stone building. You can see all the garden plots that we have there right now. I think 48 beds, all rented. We're operating under the auspices of Cooperative Extension, and before that we operated under the city of Batavia. So we'll get into that a little bit. I'll probably take up too much time on the pool. Could be another presentation. All right, so on the right-hand side you see the basketball courts. That is the location of the community pool, which we're going to talk about now. All right, how did it all get started? Well, this is going to be fun working with these classes. A group of kids, I think it was 25 kids, showed up at the mayor's office. This was back when Batavia, had not yet switched to its administrator style of government. We had our own mayor. Mayor was Herman D. Gabriel, and he was greeted by a group of kids, and he said, "Go ahead, Mayor, encouraging someone to talk. I'm here to help you do what I can. What can I do?" So a pair of boys handed him a letter and a petition signed by 25 other youngsters asking for a city swimming pool. The letter was signed by Peter Chavetta and Phil Tabone, Maple Street, just some kids in the neighborhood. The letter suggested the Lions, the Moose, the Optimist Club might be interested in helping get a pool started. The letter complained there was no safe place outdoors in which to swim. And I was talking to Biggie back there about Phil Tabone. Phil Tabone was one of the two children. Of course, you can't help it. You Google stuff now. So I Googled Phil Tabone. Turns out he graduated from Notre Dame, graduated from St. John Fisher. He went to Brockport. He was all over. Graduated. I think he got his degree from Syracuse University. He was a lawyer here many, many years. Interesting thing about, I got his story backwards. Oh, I have the story backwards. Tabone was the teacher at Pembroke. Scratch that. He was a teacher at Pembroke for many years. Graduated to be one of the principals at one of the Pembroke schools. But his true love was baking, believe it or not. He learned how to bake from his mother, and I was reading his obit. Apparently, he actually baked cakes for, I'll think of it. Salvatore's, thank you. Baked cakes for Salvatore's. That's the interesting thing. You hear about these people. What else did they do besides show up at the mayor's office when they were 13 years old and petition for the pool? All right. Oh, there we go. All right, everybody know the Greta Patterson story. Some of you do, some of you don't. Well, this is her over here in this painting, probably when she was roughly 10 years old. Well, Greta was quite the swimmer. Apparently she learned how to swim at a very early age and took up competitive swimming and then long distance swimming. And then I don't know where this idea came from. I have some ideas which I'll maybe share at the end of this. But Greta put together a team of about 12 people. Were helping her out. Her plan was to swim from Angola, New York, which is, you can see Long Point in that map. If you go across the lake and then up toward Buffalo a little bit, that's where Angola is. And from Angola to Crystal Beach. Anybody go to Crystal Beach?
Yes.
Yeah?
I was
Okay.
quite-
Before my time, Peter here. Old guy. So Crystal Beach is an amazing amusement park, all kinds of rides. It was the neat place to go in Canada, and of course from New York. So she was going to swim from Angola to Crystal Beach, a distance of 15 miles, and she was going to end up doing that in a 13-hour swim on July the 4th, 1955. And amazingly enough, what an organization. They put together this pamphlet, which I have it here on the table. I want to get over there and hand it out to you. Oops. So there she is, this pamphlet. I'm going to hand it around. Take a look. And got prepared to swim. That's her team there. They had WEBR radio, WGR television. They had the Buffalo Courier Express before it folded. They covered the stories. They had all kinds of media covering this story early on. It was well orchestrated. So she climbs into her swimsuit, gets greased up, and then into the water she goes. Sure she does. There she is swimming in the water, and the team handing her water to drink. Obviously, you're not going to drink Lake Erie water. And then eventually makes her way, technology. Makes her way to the Crystal Beach and is greeted by fans, thousands of fans, according to this brochure. Greeted her. It's a kiss from the mayor and the right hand side of the photograph there, and then makes her way back to Batavia, and this publication is put out. So, wow, that's quite a feat. This comes to the attention of 17 magazine in November of that year. Those wonderful folks at the library actually found me a copy of 17 magazine, and I looked through it. Wow, it hasn't changed at all.
It's a different teacher.
And in the very back of the magazine, there they have teens in the news. They have Greta Patterson swam across Lake Erie 13 hours studying art at Mine University, and then the other fellow that made in the news is a fellow who joined the military, and I believe was going to serve in Vietnam eventually. All right. So, almost immediately, look at can you see the date on that newspaper?
Yeah.
July the 7th. That's 3 days after she swims. And already they're getting this whole thing set up to raise money to build a pool.
Cool.
All right. Greta was the daughter of a local dentist here, Greta Patterson on Ellicott Avenue. And she was, really wanted to see a pool herself. So she jumped behind the campaign. The campaign announced right from the beginning this $100,000 commitment as a testimonial to Greta Patterson on what she's done. It says here, launched today was a $100,000 campaign for a community swimming pool as a tribute to Greta Patterson, the 18-year-old Batavian who won nationwide acclaim for her conquest of the 15-mile stretch of Lake Erie between Angola and Crystal Beach. The Kiwanis Club is spearheading the undertaking, with details being worked out at the group's luncheon meeting at the Moose home this afternoon. So at the Moose meeting that afternoon, they extolled the virtues of Greta, what a wonderful woman she is, and how we're going to raise this money, and shouldn't be any trouble raising that kind of money because people are going to be so drawn to this and they want to do good, and they even, Peter's a member of the Kiwanis Club. Anybody else a Kiwani? Peter, you're the sole representative, that's fine. And they were certain that they were going to be able to raise this money. So here's a committee meeting, and in the photograph, there's a gentleman, I don't know if you can tell, he's on the right-hand side, and he's pointing like this. Well, that gentleman is Harry Altman. Anybody know the name Harry Altman? You have to be a Buffalonian of long standing to know that name. Well, Harry Altman was a promoter. He owned the Town Casino in Buffalo, which was directly across from Shays. He also owned a club in Williamsville. And he brought national acts to Buffalo throughout the 40s, 50s, and into the 60s, and possibly into the 70s. So a big-time promoter, and here's what he says. He promised to assist in lining up talent at no cost, and told the committee that if the community does its part, there is no question, but you should raise $12,000 on this venture. And it's going to be patterned after Buffalo's Funorama, and they call it the Swimmerama. And it was set originally for July 29th, so it's like 3 weeks away. It went off on August the 7th, 1955. All right, well, before that happened, the next week, a gentleman by the name of Charles R. Bishop. Charles R. Bishop's story was that he was a soldier serving in Japan after the war was over, after the bombs had been dropped at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Well, he was in Yokohama, apparently on the guard, and was accosted by, as the paper says, a sniper. And the sniper shot him through here, severed his optic nerve, and blinded him for the rest of his life. After recuperation, he came back to Batavia. What is a young man going to do with it? Blind? How is he going to make a living? How is he going to get by? Well, the community, through the local newspaper, stood up or came up and said, we're going to start a fund. Well, they raised over $10,000 back in 1946 or so, and as a fund for him to help him adjust to life as a handicapped person, basically completely blind. They suggested he go to school. He went to school, I believe, possibly down in Africa. Alfred was going to become a chicken guy. He's going to raise chickens. He said, I don't want to do that. So his father and him decided, we're going to open a smoke shop. So they opened a smoke shop at 6.5 Main Street, which is, and I'm going to show you that right now. Oh, wait, I got to read what he said. This is what really blew me away when I started going through the microfiche. Bishop says, I want to do something for the community that has been so good to me. His gift of over $12,000, representing more than an eighth of the $100,000 goal, is contingent upon the swimming pool appeal being a success. Bishop goes on to say, I have been hearing about the community swimming pool, said the World War II veteran, who now operates a smoke shop at 6.5 Main. The more I get thinking about it, the more I know I want to help. I figured the best thing I could do was to give the money that the community gave to me, and was to make sure we would have a swimming pool. I know how much I would have enjoyed it if there had been one in Batavia when I was small. I know that a swimming pool would mean so much to so many. In a way, I would repay my fellow veterans, particularly through the enjoyment it would give their children, and it would help repay the community too. This is what really got me. I know of no way I will ever need to use the money. I have my own little business. I get government and state financial aid because I was blind. That should be enough to meet my needs. My prayer is that the swimming pool drive will be an overwhelming success. I feel that the money that has been given to me should go back to the people who were so kind to me. I believe the swimming pool is the answer. Wow. And I have found very little on Mr. Bishop. I did go on the Facebook site of your old Batavian, whatever it is, Chuck Bernard's Facebook site, and I see his niece chimed in about his the rest of his life. He, unfortunately for him and a lot of other people here in Batavia, his business was right in the middle of ground zero, shall we say. So much of Batavia's center core was leveled, including his smoke shop. And in this photograph, taken kind of a montage, you can see Austin Park, you can see the post office, you can see the Brisbane Mansion, which became the City Hall Police Station and now up for grabs. And then you see the map of Batavia overlaid on top of that. And if you look at the county building, which is right here, Richmond Hotel was over here, and then right across the street now is Tim Hortons and Wendy's. Well, right where Tim Hortons is where the smoke shop was. And you can see in this photograph. The arrow, that's what downtown Batavia looked like when Mr. Bishop came back from World War II, and that's where he operated that smoke shop until 1967, 68, whatever, that was demolished. It was said the shop was so small, it just had enough room for the tobacco, the pipes, and all the good stuff, and him and one helper, and maybe a customer or two, a very small operation. So now we come to the swimmer. You're saying to yourself immediately, why is the creature of the Black Lagoon in this picture? Why are Les Paul and Mary Ford in the picture here? Who are the Cordettes? Anyone remember the Cordettes? Oh my gosh.
I got the music.
I would suggest go out, Google the Cordettes and listen to some of their music. They were essentially a barbershop quartet style of music and beautiful, beautiful songs. Well, they performed at the Swim-a-thon, as did Les Paul and Mary Ford. The young woman in the bathing suit was being attacked by the creature from the Black Lagoon. Karen Adams, I believe, was her name. She was an actress of some skill, had been in a number of movies, and because of the connection with Harry Altman, he brought her here just to appear on stage with Greta, and that's coming up in the next slide. There's a book that's just come out, in fact, I think in April, Harry Altman, Buffalo's Master Showman. I would love to know some more details about his life. All right. So there's the Batavia News from August the 8th, the day after the show, and you can see Greta on the right shaking hands with Adams, the actress, and I'm not sure who's in the middle. And what a show. This is a 4-hour show at the Batavia Downs. All this local entertainment. I'm not going to try to read it all because my eyes are going crazy. But, you know, they start off with, let me just read this one. This is amazing. And, you know, I'm discovering this, and what is this? They really put on a show in less than a month after she swims the Lake Erie to raise money for a pool. It's just amazing. All right. Leading the parade was a woman color bearer astride a Palomino horse. Next was Miss Patterson, followed by the fire trucks, the color goer, Corky Eyes of Batavia, State Baton Twirling Champion, St. Joseph Drum Corps, the Rockport Batavia Cavaliers Drum Corps, and then the stars, all the stars we had, and a lot of them I don't know, but one of these days I think I'm going to make a sound, a playlist out of all the groups that played there. Do you remember Dim Dim the Lights? That was by the Top Hatters. You remember the Top Hatters? They were great music back in the 50s, and you know, through Mr. Altman, they brought them to Batavia. Wow, what a show. Oh, I love the end of it. They played the Battle Hymn of the Republic, and let's see, the Angelic Singers, which is a group out of Buffalo, and the members of the crowd all lit matches ablaze, which I'm going, oh my gosh, thank goodness we don't do that anymore. what a disaster that could have been. But, you know, this giant spectacle, and I love this. Obviously, the translation between the newspaper through microfiche, through, you know, the PowerPoint, you really can't see much there, but if you notice, this is the fence that, you know, keeps you from going onto the track. Lined up, you know, like 10 rows deep are the fans, and they're there to see all these great performing artists. They're here to see that movie star who, by the way, had to leave immediately for New York City to her premiere of her next movie. So it had to have been something to be there. All right. Yeah, of course it does it again. All right, so the fundraising begins. Fundraising begins immediately from late 1955 into 56, 57, 58, 59. You get all kinds of different stories. That one, too quick on the draw. This is a delayed reaction. All right. This little girl went to her father and said, I want to give the money in my piggy bank. There's 200 pennies in there. And her father said, well, you're going to have to break the penny bank to do that. She go home. So she figured out a way to get those 200 pennies out and then put them on a board and then have that board displayed in windows here in Batavia as a, you know, encourage people to give. And all these other organizations, you know, you're giving, you know, like $50, $20, $10, just a small amount of money coming in, but a few big ones, you know, some of our factories here in the city. And the one here on the left-hand side is Home for Children, which is where the Richmond Mansion was, and that's where, in its declining years, the Sisters of Mercy, is that right, Bill?
Not sure.
Not sure. I think the Sisters of Mercy started the children's school there. Well, they got together and they raised $50. So all this money is coming in drips and drabs. They had a dinner, ended up, you know, appealing to get $28,000, and that was successful. And on it went. It's a bowling group. Their league disbanded. They had $112.37. Turned it over to the pool fund. There was actually a band played somewhere, and they got $40. And it's just, you know, this is the community really reaching into what meager funds they have and giving. This photograph is 1960. After, what, 4 years of fundraising, they finally break ground up at MacArthur Park.
That's still amazing.
Yeah.
Good
Question,
Yeah.
new sewage plant plans near me?
That's just part of the newspaper, you know, you get what you get, so.
Is that the
Yeah, there's
sewage plant on South Main?
Probably.
Yeah, we live next to it.
Yeah, so that's a group of, Mr. Taylor, I think, is the city engineer, he's in the middle, and they're going over the plant. So the first, you know, shovel went into the ground in 1960, but it wasn't until, come on, here we go, 1962 on the left-hand side, that's June 20th, and the superintendent of the waterworks is the one standing on the end of the diving board as the pool is filling. Not probably something you should do, but you gotta live a little. So it took years to raise the money, and it took quite a few years to actually build this pool. And it opened on July the 9th, 1962. There was a 60 by 100 foot pool that the funds went toward building that pool. The city kicked in the money to build the pool house, so that was their responsibility. And again, a lot of donated labor, a lot of donated money coming in to make sure this comes off. So it was open, and Bill Kaufman was so kind to bring in, I'm not going to pass this around because this newspaper is old, very old. This is from 1967. This would have been right after the wading pool opened. The wading pool, and Bill is in that photograph I showed you at the beginning, and he's also in the, what is it, way down here, he's gathered around the edge of the pool. So Bill was always a camera hog, right? He had always self-promotion, right? So the pool was a success, one could say it was a bit of a success. But it was always losing money, right from the start. You start to see the bits of information in the paper. Oh, wait, this is a great story here. This is, I pronounce his name for me?
Irera.
He and his buddy, Tony Gioia, were subject of a nice little piece in the paper of them, typical day of going to the pool. They start going to the pool in the upper left-hand corner, they check in, they get their locker rental, and then they go take the shower and then go in the pool. And you got a nice action shot. I think that's Gioia flying through the air into the pool. One of them became a famous lawyer here in Batavia, the partnership with Charlie Mancuso, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I've got that. You can tell I'm not a native. All right, so 1967, the wading pool was added. That was another fundraising effort by Kiwanis, thank you, Kiwanis. That was completed, and we have the ribbon cutting with members of the Kiwanis Club and the city engineer. And that was a huge success. Bill, you spent a fair amount of time in the wading pool,
I
right?
did, I never graduated from the wading pool.
You never, that's right, Catherine Ross never did teach you to swim, did she?
She taught me.
They'll still use.
All right, well, they had lifeguards. The lifeguards, of course, were part of the picture. It's a great thing for teaching young people responsibility and making a little money. So here they are. The ones here on the left actually saved a young boy who had fallen in the pool, was actually face down under the water when one of the lifeguards recognized, trouble, dives in the water, pulls him out. The young man in the back did mouth-to-mouth on the gentleman, the gentleman. Ambulance was called. He was resuscitated and no problems at all. So he survived a very near drowning. And this is something that the kids have to be aware of all the time. You don't take seconds off when you're watching the pool. All right, but I had to put this in. Troubles ahead and troubles behind, the Grateful Dead. All right, 1982. 1982, the pool has now been open for 20 years. This is what we're waiting pool for 15 years or so. Well, the city is in a financial crisis, and they're complaining that the money that is being brought in is not enough. We're operating at a loss every year. The losses are growing, so we're not putting it in the budget. So what did the Kiwanis say to that?
Tell me.
They were nettled by it. Who's ever heard of that term? They were nettled by the talk of closing the pool. And my gosh, they got together, they put up a big stink. They had a poll here in the city, put that back into the budget, and they did, the city council. With a couple of dissensions saying it's costing too much money, they continued the funding of the pool. So I don't think the protest was quite that extreme. It's a modern protest. They're back in the swim, and that's the citizens, once again, speaking. This is something that's important to us as citizens of this great city. We want a pool. Well, troubles again, 1991 or so. The pool is suffering numerous leaks. I believe it was 91, they didn't open. 92, they made some repairs, they went to fill it, it leaked. So in 1992, the city said, that's enough. They closed the pool. There's the last group of lifeguards getting their last picture taken before the pool was shut down. And again, it went for a couple of years on a very, very low attendance basis. All right, so what are we going to do with it? The city of Batavia says we're going to put our youth center there. So they went and they actually brought in prison labor. I forget which prison brought in.
I believe it was Albion. It was Albion.
Albion, thank you. Albion came in, they provided the labor, and the city provided the money to do all the renovations, rip out all the pool house paraphernalia, and then put in a city youth center. City Youth Center opened in 1996, I believe. All right. It's taking shape. But in 1996, they decided, well, this pool is never going to be filled again, and it's a hazard, so they bulldozed it in the summer of 1996 and put in the basketball courts. And the City Youth Center operated very, very nicely there for a good number of years. And there's a great shot of the basketball courts, the former pool building, and converted to the youth center, and of course the four wading pools. Just sitting there, fenced in, holding water when it rained and leaking when it in the droughts. So what are we gonna do? There's a good shot of it in probably about 2010 or 11. You can see the trees are growing up over it. What are we gonna do? Thank goodness for Cooperative Extension's Leadership Genesee program. The class of 2011 said, we need a community garden. What are we going to do? They looked at the various places to put the community garden, settled on, the former pool. They have the youth center there already. They're going to put in some gardens adjacent to the old wading pool. And the following year, they said, you know what? We're going to fill in that pool. And this is the way it looked. Things floating in it. Beyond that, you can see the pavilion that the city has since taken down there in MacArthur Park. And that was the first year, 2011. They put in some nice small 4x4 beds. This is, of course, looking toward the east, not where the community wading pool was, but adjacent to it. And then the next year, 2012, look at all the work they had to do. They had to tear out the concrete on the alongside of the fence, and then drill holes into the bottom of the pool, and then, of course, you got to fill it in. It was all filled in. And look at those beds. They don't even look like they're pressure treated. I'm not sure. They were pressure treated. Rayan was part of that. So, and this is where I become personally involved in this. As I showed up one day with a pickup truck. And
He said, hey, what are you doing? I want to do that.
It's so much fun. And these are shots taken from that first year's crop from 2012. And there's a young man, I'm not sure who that is in the picture, but so today the community community garden has grown from, we probably had 12 beds originally. Year after year, we've added beds. Rotary put some money up. We put in a nice shed. The community youth center was expanded. I'm not real sure about it. They moved. The youth bureau moved. So that's right now that former pool building is the city school district's maintenance office, and the basketball courts are used intermittently. Every once in a while, a ball comes flying over the 8-foot fence, and we have to retrieve it for them and toss it back over. We have a fairly good relationship with those kids. And there is a shot of the pool at the last summer. Right now, like I said, we have 48 beds. We have 3, what do we call them, adaptive beds? Adaptive beds, so you don't have to bend over. Great community of people, and folks that garden there really enjoy it. At the very back, you can see some artwork that we put up about 4 years ago by David Burke. Beautiful murals that go up in the spring and down in the fall. So come up and check it out. Bill walks all around there all the time, and every once in a while we'll let him in.
So you don't ask me to work.
It's a locked facility. Dave, of course, back there, he's a happy member. All right, so that's the story. All right, but I have to go ahead. Who knows who Helen Neville is? Nobody. Well, Helen Neville grew up here in Batavia. She was a Brownie. Anybody know the Brownie name? The Brownie name were two priests, and the two priests, one of them served in I believe it was West Seneca for many years, and he was a real avid performer before he became a priest. So he has showbiz in his blood. Helen Neville, his sister, the only one of the 4 or 5 Browning children that married, she went to Buffalo and she became a famous broadcaster. She had her own TV, radio show, and she had her own television show. And my suspicion is that Helen Neville, maybe Reverend Brownie, said, what can we do to help this pool project that's starting to bubble up? Helen Neville, well, I know Harry Alton. Maybe we could get that ball rolling. So it could be that this whole drive to build a pool had its roots in Helen Neville. I don't know.
Who happened to live in the house we now live in?
What's that?
Who happened to live in the house we now live
Well, that's true. We lived in the former Browning house, and we know a little bit about her. But wow, what a great story! This is something that maybe a future Java with Joe will talk about Helen Neville and her career, because she was a very famous broadcaster. In fact, she's in the Buffalo Broadcasting Hall of Fame. So check her out and check out the pool. Oh, you can't check out the pool. You have to check out the community garden. All right, any questions? Gotta have one. Somebody's got it. Yes.
Whatever happened to the guy, the blinded man after the smoke shop?
The only thing I could find on him, like I said, there was a Facebook post. The woman identified herself as being his niece. The smoke shop closed up, and apparently he went home to, he lived on Manhattan. Eventually, he was one of the first occupants of the Victorian Manor, and he died in 2009.
Good.
So I'm sure somebody crossed paths with him. You know how these stories are. You have to start telling the stories and then have to be corrected by somebody who was really there. So
He lived a pretty long life for a guy that got shot in the head.
It's a great story. I didn't know what I was getting into, and all of a sudden, my friend Warren over here, he brings me a satchel filled with all kinds of Kiwanis stuff that had been in his attic. And, almost had heat stroke when you were trying to locate it, right? Okay, so that's part of the gig when you're doing history research. You got to put your life on the line. So, all right. Yes.
I just have one comment. I remember in the mid to late 70s, me and my brothers and friends, the pool was the place to be in summer. I mean, it's hot. You want to go somewhere to swim. It was a good time. If I recall correctly, was my parents would give me $1, so it was 50 cents. You'd pay $1 to get in, 50 cents for swimming, 50 cents for the locker, for the key deposit. Then you turn the key at the end of your swimming session, you get your 50 cents back, and they had vending machines there. So you could swim for 50 cents and then use the 50 cents for snacks and a soda or candy. It was inexpensive, so for $1, you had yourself a fun day there at the pool. It was quite a good time though. I remember being there, oh gosh.
Peter, were you swim there as well?
Just one time, we had a pool at home.
Oh, that's the demise of the pool. Well, I got my own at home. I got to hang out with the riffraff, right?
Right.
All right. I guess that wraps it up, unless there's any more questions. And, come up and take a look at the newspaper, and then I think the little panel, there it is, the camera. And take a gander at Greta Patterson as a young
Are there any Patterson families?
as far as I know, Greta moved to California at some point. I believe, according to Lucine Kaufman, I believe Lucine actually interviewed her on the radio.
Yeah, she lives in Sun Valley, Idaho now.
Sun Valley.
Yeah. I love the photo of her with the movie star. Greta is more glamorous than the movie star in that photo.
Yeah, it's quite a story, it really is.
I'm
All
really
right.
thank you for this, because I moved in here, I came at 68. I never heard of a pool.
Okay.
Until at the end, there's there was a pool.
Yeah, a lot of people have no idea there was a pool.
Yeah,
when you tell them, oh, it's up at the old pool, where's that? High school, you know where the high school is? Well, where I used to know where it was. All right, so thank you so much for your
Thank you.
Thank you again, Richard. So some upcoming events, and I won't forget Mike. First thing, yes, so next Friday is our next concert series. Tom Teresi, who's an excellent classical guitarist, will be here at 7 p.m. You won't want to miss that. We've got 3 guest speakers in June. Thursday the 18th, we have Dr. Randy John from the Senate Reservation to talk about the oil spring territory. On Wednesday the 24th, Joyce Thompson Hovey will be here to talk about the Martyr and the Traitor, about Revolutionary War spies. And then on Thursday, June 25th at 7, we have Vic Vignola talking about the Battle of Seven Pines. So we'll get some Civil War history in on you. And our next Java with Joe will also be the 25th, but in the morning. So if you want to do a double dip that day, we got you covered. And Tyler Angora from the Leroy House, former curator here, will be here to talk about Ingham University, which was in Leroy. So a lot coming up in June, and we have a big event on the 20th down at the Genesee County Forest. We are cooperating with them to do a program called Stroll Along the History Trail. We're going to have about 20 different reenactors from all different periods there, showing off their era military wear, and we're going to have cannon demonstrations and musket demonstrations, and the county forest is going to be doing some special hikes through some of the trails for you. That's up from 11 to 3 that day. It is free. You can come and check it out anytime during that.
What was the date?
June 20th. So Father's Day, day before Father's Day. It's part of New York State's Path Through History Weekend. So that whole weekend, there's across the state all sorts of historic-based activities going on, and we are the only one doing anything in Genesee County. So, so you got to come to us first. But definitely check all that out. All the information's on our website, Facebook. If you're a member, you're getting all this inundated to you. If you're not a member, become a member, and then you can get inundated with all this information. Other than that, thank you to Tim Hortons for the coffee and donuts. They've sponsored us now 2 years with Java with Joe, so thank you to them. And thank you all for coming.